Welcome to Enjoy Fort Wayne. This episode is brought to you by the YLNI Farmers Market and highlights the 350 vendors that make up the #1 market in the state of Indiana. Today I'm talking to Sarah Trombley of Lunar Infusions. Sarah is the go-to for all things kombucha, and she will explain how she got started and what exactly is kombucha. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and be sure to hit the notification bell on YouTube so you know when we drop new videos. So today, Sarah Trombley will help us enjoy Fort Wayne.
My name is Sarah Trombley, and I own Lunar Infusions Kombucha.
Awesome. So tell me, are you from Fort Wayne originally?
I did grow up kind of in the area. I did live in Fort Wayne for a little while when I was a kid. I ended up graduating from Columbia City High School.
Okay.
But I did live in other beautiful places for like 10 years. So I went to Ball State for college. And then I didn't finish college, but I lived in Muncie for a couple of years. And then I moved to Asheville, North Carolina for a couple of years. And then from there, I got a job in Alaska, of all places, in Denali National Park. And I stayed the summer there. And then from there, I just sort of traveled and lived in other really cool places.
So what were you passionate about back then that led you to some of those? I mean, Alaska, that's not something you hear every day. So what led you there? What were you passionate about?
The outdoors, nature, having new experiences. I really just wanted to see before I settled down in a career or like buying a house and like doing all that stuff. In my early 20s, I just kind of wanted to explore and travel. So I did a lot of work in the national parks. So I did Yosemite for a couple summers, Denali for a couple summers, Death Valley, Joshua Tree, and then a lot of traveling in between. And just the experience of being sort of free, like no mortgage, no kids, just, hiking, backpacking, camping, rock climbing, doing some fun stuff, which I don't regret at all at this point.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. A lot of people listening would be like, oh, I've dreamed of doing that. And so they're living vicariously now through this. So,
Yeah.
Okay. So growing up, tell us about your family then. Big family, small family.
Yeah, that is I don't want to give too much away, but, yeah, I kind of came from a broken family. So for me, it was kind of easy to just like let go, like leave the nest and just be like, screw it, I'm going to travel. And
Sure. So you think maybe if you had a cookie cutter life as a child that maybe you wouldn't have wanted to leave? Is that a fair assessment?
Perhaps,
I mean, it's hard to say,
it
right?
is, because it's scary, like saying I'm going to go spend the summer in Alaska, or even when I moved out of Indiana at age 21 to Asheville, North Carolina, I think it would have been harder to let go in a way.
For sure. Well, it's interesting then how some of life's lemons, what they do for us, and what they can produce later. And I definitely didn't know that situation, and it helps me kind of understand how things have worked out for you. So how did you end up back in Fort Wayne then, and when was that?
I moved back in 2017. And part of the reason I moved back was because all my siblings were having children. So I had a bunch of nieces and nephews. And when I came back to visit one summer, I really felt like I wanted to be more of a part of their life. And then I did meet somebody on Tinder, and I moved back to pursue that relationship and to just be around family. So.
Sure. So now let's fast forward to how did you tell us about tell us the story of how you got your company, how you got started, how the first idea was. Like, did it happen in one day that you thought of this, or take us through the process, all that?
Okay. So I started fermenting stuff. So what I do is I make kombucha, which is a fermented tea. And I also do other fermented foods too. And when I lived in Asheville, I was at a friend's house and she had brought home a bottle of GT's kombucha. This was like probably 2008 or something, before it became like really popular. But Asheville is a hippie town, so hippies drink kombucha. And I just was really intrigued by it. And I also had a book that about diet and health, and it had mentioned how fermented foods are really good for you, and it really piques my interest. So I just started following some recipes for kombucha, and I started fermenting some other stuff too. And I just realized that I had a real knack for it. So, you know how we all have our skills. I also like to cook, and I'm a creative person. And I also like understanding how things work. So with fermentation, it is a bit of a science. So I kind of dove into the how is it working on a biological level,
Sure.
which is really fascinating. So with my creativity and just my kind of analytical side, it really just worked for me. So it always kind of was an idea, like maybe I could start my own brand, you know, which seemed overwhelming at the time. But I kept, like whenever someone would come over to my house, I would share my kombucha with them, and they'd be like, wow, this stuff is better than what's at the store. And eventually people were buying it from me. Like instead of buying it at the co-op or whatever, they would come over and fill up their little jars or whatever. And eventually I had like so many kombucha jars around my apartment that I was like, okay, I really got to think about maybe making this a business. But I did, actually all this kind of happened when I lived in California. Even though I tried it in Asheville, I didn't really start making it until I lived in California. But I had a job that was paying well out there, so I didn't really put a lot of effort into it. But when I moved to Indiana, I kind of was like starting over. So I was like, I'm going to give this a shot. And I found a commercial kitchen where I could make stuff. It was the Cook Spring Kitchen here in Fort Wayne. And that's kind of like where people who are just starting a food business can go and try their recipes and use a real commercial facility. So you don't have to build your own. It's expensive to like build your own restaurant or commercial kitchen. So,
Sure.
so I started with small, with like 3 jars, like 3 2-gallon jars of kombucha. And I started selling it at the farmer's market, and I just grew it from there. So
That's incredible. So did you think that you would have a like standalone spot to be selling it? And so was that the goal always, or you're just like, well, let the chips fall where they may?
yeah. I mean, the dream has always been for it to be a legitimate business that can provide me with like an income and stuff. But I always knew I don't come from a family of entrepreneurs. Obviously, I didn't go to business school. I didn't even finish college. So I didn't know how to start a business. So my plan was start small and just grow it organically. And I know from living in like California and Asheville, just how they're a little bit more health conscious there than here. But I feel like the trends always kind of start in those places, and then they catch on in places like the Midwest.
Sure.
So I figured eventually it would catch on here, and maybe I could be part of help shape the culture around health and better foods.
Brewhound Bus is your chance to visit all the scenes you want to check out, from breweries to wineries and nightlife. Book your tour with Brewhound Bus. Go to brewhoundbus.com, let us pick you up from your house and drop you off home safely. Grab 12 of your friends and bring your own cooler on board. Book your next bachelor or bachelorette party, birthday, or friends night out with Brewhound Bus. Check out the weekday specials as well, only at brewhoundbus.com. What piece of advice could you give? Let's say I was someone right here in front of you that was interested in starting my own business. What would you say to me right now?
I would say it's definitely like go for it, but also just know that it's not easy, and you have to really, really want it. You got to really sacrifice. And I have a passion for what I do, and I feel like for me that's what's helped carry my business. Like if I wasn't completely obsessed and passionate with kombucha and fermented foods, I don't think I would have had the endurance to do what it takes to actually execute. Also, it doesn't matter what your business is. Like if it's based on a passion, that's great. As at the end of the day, you not only have to be passionate about your product or service, but you have to be passionate about running a business, because there's so much more than just the product. Like making kombucha is only a small part of what I do. There's marketing, there's the bookkeeping, there's, strategizing, research. Like there's so much that goes into it. And a lot of problem solving. The more I grow, the bigger that I get, the more problems come up. And you have to, I think, enjoy tackling problems as they come. Like, okay, here's an issue and how am I going to solve it? And just being able to ride through that on a daily basis.
Sure.
Yeah.
So there's questions that I ask about Fort Wayne to everyone that sits in that seat. And they are, what is something that you love to do in Fort Wayne when you're not enthralled in your business? Like, what's something that is key to Fort Wayne? Like, Ziffel's Ribs is only in Fort Wayne. You're not going to go to Cincinnati or California or Asheville, right? So what is something that you enjoy doing in Fort Wayne? And it could be even that you want to give, because you want to give a shout out to a local business or a local thing or whatever it is. But what's something that comes to mind when I say, what's something in Fort Wayne that you enjoy?
Honestly, there's a few things. The farmers markets in Fort Wayne. I've always been a big farmers market connoisseur, I guess. Any new town I go to or visit, like I want to check out their market.
And with what you're passionate about, that really makes sense, right? I mean,
right.
You want to see what else is out there for the people that share the same passion as you.
Yeah. And also, like, it's just such a great hub for small businesses and local farmers. So if you want to meet the person who's growing your meat or your vegetables.
It is kind of cool, yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of times you can go to these people's farms and like, so it was interesting. My whole life I've always been a farmer's market shopper, and now I've been at the farmer's market this is it going into my 6th season. So I now am like friends with all the vendors. But even if I was never a farmer's market vendor, our farmer's market in Fort Wayne is awesome. Like all the markets I've been to, it really holds its own. I mean, and we do have a couple. Like there's the one in the summer at Bar Street, and then there's the other one at McCulloch Park. And then they have different indoor locations. They're both great markets. I've been a part of both of them. But it's just the amount of quality vendors is phenomenal, and like we have great food producers growing organic food, or at least have really good farming practices, and I'm just really proud of this area for the people who are doing really great things and providing good food in the region and good products in general. So there's so many great businesses there. And surprisingly, like I'm a big outdoor enthusiast. I love hiking and all that. And there are some really great nature preserves. If you go to the Acres Land Trust website, you can see all the nature preserves. And there is some magic here. We've even got some like waterfalls and stuff, which a lot of people don't know about.
Right. You don't think that when you think of our area. Like,
yeah.
For sure. Okay, what is one thing that moving forward as you are now in Fort Wayne, like you're a Fort Waynian now, like for real. What is one thing that you would say moving forward that we have to keep an eye on that, is either not necessarily a negative, but like what's something that like, oh, we better be careful. We don't want to do that. Or like, does something come to mind that like we need to improve on, or, a growing point, or is there anything that you see now that you've been here? Like, one thing about Fort Wayne that bothers me is so-and-so, like anything in general.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, after living in so many different places, I definitely have an opinion on this. But I will say that Fort Wayne is changing. Like the whole culture is starting to change and shift, and it's really cool. When I came here to visit my family, I think 15 years ago, I remember walking downtown Fort Wayne on a Friday evening in the summertime, and there was like trash blowing around. Like it was like a ghost town. And I was like, there's all these rivers here. Like this has potential to be a cool city, and there is nothing going on. So fast forward to now, like totally different place. And it's growing and it's changing, but we still have a ways to go. Like, and I would say, especially with the health conscious aspect, it's nice when everyone in your area kind of or when more people in your area kind of share the same values. And the sad truth is, so much of this area people are sick, they have chronic health issues, they don't have energy, like diabetes, and people just age faster out here. And it's a direct result, in my opinion, of our diet and just the toxicity.
No
around
question.
Here.
There's nothing to do here is the like always the shtick about the Midwest, and so people just eat.
Yeah.
And they don't worry about what they eat either, right? Is
Yeah.
kind of the thing. So I totally get that, and that makes sense. Again, with what you're passionate about, I totally get that.
Uh-huh.
Now, then speaking to the opposite of that, you said a little bit as far as 15 years ago what it was and what it is now. But now let's talk more of the positive. Like, what is something that you are just on fire over and that you're proud to call someone in California or call someone in Asheville and say, guess what? Fort Wayne is blah, blah, blah. Whatever. Like, what is something that you're excited about moving forward?
Yeah, I guess it goes along with that change that I've seen. We actually have a really good, craft beer scene. Like, there's really good quality. People are doing quality things here. The farmers market, again, like there's really good food and produce, and yeah, so much is happening, like with the whole Electric Works project. Like when I go down to the Landing, when I go down to Electric Works, Promenade Park, there's all this development around here that Fort Wayne's starting to feel like a bigger city, and it's cool and it's nice, and it is a nice place to live.
The vibe is completely different over the last even 3 to 4 years, let alone 15, right?
Yes. And so I'm definitely proud of that. And I think Fort Wayne's coming into holding its own as a great place to live. And honestly, too, people are nice here. Like Midwesterners are nice. Like we're good people.
Right. Stick with us. We're good.
Yeah.
So, okay, just a couple more questions. One is, you are right now a walking commercial for yourself. So let us know where you are, where we can grab your stuff. The link will be in the show notes and all that, your links and all to this, but just say your spiel so that we have it.
Okay, sure. So for people who don't know what kombucha is, it's a fermented tea drink. So it's kind of made similar to like beer and wine, except it's non-alcoholic. It kind of has the taste of maybe a hard cider. It's got that fermented flavor because there is yeast in it, just like in beer and wine. But it's more tart. It's a little bit sweet just to kind of temper the tartness. And
It's definitely tart.
It's carbonated and refreshing. And for some people, they love it right away. If you're a picky eater or somebody who eats, is used to more sugar or sweet, like it might be an acquired taste.
She means me, guys.
We're going to have to get you more samples. Okay.
I tried a sample at Electric Works, and I thought it would be sweeter, and it just took me by surprise a little bit. But my buddy Alex, and he gets it all the time, and him and his wife are more health conscious, and he was like, "Ooh, I got to get a sample, or I got to buy some real quick." And he did, and he loved it,
Yeah. Yeah, people who like kombucha, they love it.
Oh, for sure.
It's good quality. But yeah, so it's basically, I think of it, although it does have some health benefits, like it's good for gut health, it's probiotic. I don't like to focus on that. It's a drink alternative. So when you're like, I'm thirsty, I need something refreshing, instead of going for a Pepsi or a juice or whatever fake flavored fake
Gatorade
sugar
or, all that stuff,
like kombucha is completely natural. It's got natural antioxidants, it's got natural electrolytes and all these other things that are good for you, so you can just swap it and you're actually consuming something that's good for you. And in that vein, I do fermented foods like different types of sauerkraut, kimchi, and all this stuff stays in the refrigerator because it's not pasteurized. So long as it's in the refrigerator, it's not going to, it slows the fermentation, but it still has all that living goodness in it. So most sauerkraut that people are used to it's been pasteurized, so it's like shelf stable, but it's also like not a living food anymore. It's no probiotics or anything. So I do that, and I also do some herbal remedies. So I'm doing like concentrated herbal extracts that you can even add to your kombucha or another drink, or just take as needed. Like we do a sleep aid. I do like a brain tonic, kava, which is really cool. So that said, I have all those products at my brewery in South Whitley, where I make everything. So I produce everything there. And we are open to the public on the weekends, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then the new kombucha and wellness bar that I just opened up at Electric Works. So inside the Union Street Market.
And I have been there. It's awesome. Yes.
Yeah, it's such a fun atmosphere. And I do have my kombucha on tap at a few places like Davy's Delicious Bagels.
Okay, cool.
Josh's Jungle, which is in Huntertown, Conjure Coffee, and some other places too. So
Awesome. Okay, that's great. So last question is always a fun one. And I never, ever tell people ahead of time, ever, because I want you to take your time and think, because I'll edit, so don't worry.
Okay.
If you could rent a big enough billboard for the entire city to see atop the AEP building or what have you, and everyone could see it, and it was one message, what would it say?
Interesting question. I might get a little off topic here and say, love yourself, because along with so many people not having good physical health, a lot of people are struggling with mental health. And that's another passion of mine that I definitely want to raise awareness with. And I think it is collectively, like in the collective conscious, like more and more people are starting to realize the importance of like going to see a therapist, healing your trauma and all that. And, you know, if I just wanted everyone to see a message, I would be to love yourself. It might sound kind of, I don't know, cliche, but it's freaking true. It all starts there. I think, you know, you can work on eating the right foods all you want, but if you're not healing on the inside, you know, you're not ever going to heal from anything else. So
That is perfect. No, I love asking that question because you just get all kinds of different answers. So
yeah.
This podcast is brought to you by Coraggio Media. The show was edited by me and sponsored by the YLNI Farmers Market. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram for all the latest updates. We will see you next week, where we will be sure to show you how you can enjoy Fort Wayne.